So we're gonna go through powerful pay-per-click tactics that are gonna get you more dollars. And the let me just what we're not gonna cover. Okay, there's a lot of material on and pay-per-click presentations and content that's focused on a lot of the what I call the anti to good pay-per-click strategies. Keyword expansions and keyword management, match types, optimized ad copy, bid management, quality scores, negative keywords, landing page optimization. And I'm sure you have all seen a lot of presentations and material on that. What we want to do is go through some uncommon PPC strategies that you could do now that'll give you an edge versus your competition. Now, before we get started, we have two quick polls we want to do. The first one we're going to launch right now is just when I get a better handle on our audience and what the level of sophistication is. The first poll, you can launch it right now, is um, are you right now doing any kind of pay-per-click marketing, or do you have it in your plans? Love to get a reading from everybody. Right now, we've got almost 40% of the people voted. Vote, please. We're gonna open up for another 10 seconds. It helps us better understand how to approach you in this presentation. All right, we got really good vote participation. There's a few of you left out there. Please vote. Give you another 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We got like almost 90% voting. That's great. So do the results, and it looks like a little over 60% of you have not done pay-per-click. So this is going to be great for you guys. Um, Obviously, there's some basics that we're not going to go through here that you're going to want to learn more about, and we could do that with you in one-on-one discussions. We'll talk about at the end of this presentation, or there's plenty of material that we've done on our YouTube channel or other YouTube videos and slide share presentations that you could find what we've done. Okay, the second poll, we're going to launch a second poll now. Is that true, Jennifer?
It is.
And the second poll is going to be what, Jennifer?
For those of you who answered yes, are you confident your PPC campaign is driving the results you want?
Yeah. So, how are you doing on those PPC campaigns? Are they getting the results that you want? For those of you who answered yes. And right now, we don't have huge participation, but it looks like a majority are not feeling good about it. I'm going to give you guys another 5. We're getting a lot more participation, which is awesome. Uh, Give us 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Close down that poll. By far, a majority are not feeling like you're getting the results you'd want. So this is the great webinar for you. So let's get started. Okay. Um, so tactic number 1. This is probably the most uh, kind of complex with some layers in it. We're probably going to spend a couple more minutes on this than some of the other tactics, which are easier to implement, easier to get. But this is a really important model when it comes to attributing the ROI of pay-per-click or any other digital strategy to ROI. And we're going to have Brian kind of talk a little bit more about this in a second. But the key that we want you to know is this this Google Analytics used to have an attribution analytics model only available to paid premium analytics subscribers at 150K a year. And now they've made it available, a basic attribution model available as of February for everybody. And this is going to be the next big wave in you helping you understand attribution of different types of digital marketing to ROI. And we think it's important to make you understand this and know about it. So Brian, why don't you take it from here and let's kind of tick through a few of these slides. Brian? Uh, let's see. Brian seems to be muted.
Everybody hearing me? Hi, everybody. Is everybody hearing me? Okay. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. So I want to take a quick look at the top three most common attribution models that are out there. There's well over a dozen different models you can look at. I'm going to take a look at the top three, the most common. In this last interaction model, what happens here is that 100% of the credit for a lead or a sale is attributed to the last visit. So in this slide, we're looking at a visitor came to the site through paid search. A couple of days later, it came through social media, a Facebook post, and then on the final day, came back through organic search and filled out a form request. In this model, 100% of the credit is given to organic search. You don't even think. On the first interaction model, it's completely the opposite. 100% of the credit in a first interaction model is attributed to the first visit, the traffic source that originated the contact between you and the customer. In the linear model, this is probably the third most common as well. Each of the different channels, paid search, social, and organic, are given equal weighting as far as how much they contributed to that conversion. Really important thing here to mention is that the last interaction model, which is really looked at as the least accurate to give you a true picture of what is happening, that is the default model that's used for all Google Analytics reports. So when you're looking at any standard reports, your all traffic report, your audience report in Google Analytics, it by default it uses a last interaction model. And what's happening in advertising in general is that model's been used for many years. And with the way things are happening now, with so many platforms and so many things going on, it's a dying model. Much less people are starting to use that model and looking at these other models. Go to the next slide. So this is something that everybody right after this call can do right away, which is to go into Google Analytics. There's a model comparison tool in there, and very quickly you could see this is looking at first click, first interaction versus last interaction, and the difference. And what you can see here is that paid search in this case, if you're looking at last interaction, drove 86 conversions at a cost of $53.96. But if you're looking at a first interaction, it drove 118 conversions at a cost per acquisition of $39.33. So one of the things that this does, it just gives you a very different perspective in some cases on how your campaign is doing for you by looking at it from a different point of view.
Yeah. So I mean, the big point here is that, as Brian mentioned, Google Analytics by default is set up in a last interaction model. So you're going to have a bias in your ROI and decision making on where you spend money, the way it's set up by default.
So this gives you a real quick way to see this. This is from an actual client campaign, looking at a month based on last interaction. They had 54 leads. Looking at it on a first interaction model from pay-per-click, that was 87 leads. That's a 61% increase in leads versus the last interaction model, which was the only thing this client was looking at because they were just using the standard reporting. Without this information and the visibility into what was truly happening with their return on investment on pay-per-click, they weren't ready to increase their budget. After seeing it through this different point of view, their budget increased, and now they're seeing 2 times, 3 times the amount of leads.
That's awesome. All right, so that's the attribution model. Now let's go through weather-triggered advertising. This is really interesting for us because more and more we're focused on third-party data and bringing third-party data into our cloud and being able to activate campaigns based on that third-party data. A lot of our clients are in businesses that have really strong triggers because of weather. A lot of exterior contractors, even real estate professionals and other categories have that same thing. So let's spend a second talking a little bit about weather. According to the Weather Channel, 127% higher click-through rate when you have creative that's tied to the weather, and 170% higher purchase consideration rate during weather events. Now, the Weather Channel, what I never knew about it is it's like a giant database, and they've been doing these correlations and measurements for some time to find out um, how weather impacts people's interest in products and categories. Now, we could take that, and what Brian's done with his team is take that and turn that to advantage for our clients. We'll go through some case studies in a minute.
It turns out we might have a little bit of an echo. Everyone's telling us. So, Chris, do you want to try putting on some headphones instead?
Okay.
Okay, so this is a case study of one of our roofing contractors. And the key point here is that I think a lot of you actually might be familiar with the weather-related advertising that you see when you're checking out a forecast on AccuWeather, WeatherBug, Weather Channel, whatever it may be. But there's also a way to capture these weather-driven opportunities. They're short bursts of opportunities. There's a way to capture it with paid search. And what we did here with this roofing contractor, and now are expanding into our marketing playbook with all of our contractors, is we were monitoring the weather and adjusting budgets and keyword bids whenever there was heavy rain or hail or a snowstorm coming in. What we saw was there was a spike in searches related to roof repairs, roof leaks, emergency roofing services, several dozens of keywords that were capturing that same thing. Isolating and looking at what happened during those spikes of traffic, there was an increase in leads of an average of 258% increase in leads and a decrease in the cost per lead of 53%. So the key takeaway here was that, by working with clients and changing their campaign settings and their strategies for these brief periods of time, we were able to gain dozens of new customers that they would have seen without doing this. It's just a great little way to use pay-per-click in the same way almost that you would use the Weather Channel advertising.
So the idea here, I think I'm echoing still, am I? Hello? The idea here would be to set aside some flexible spending by month to meet your lead goals, and when weather events happen, be able to use PPC strategically to really make hay while the sun shines, if you will, because it can be a very effective tool to bring down your average cost per lead and to really help make your lead goals when there's key time periods. Okay, so let's go to some quick things, Brian, they should think about in setting this up.
I'm going to run through this quickly. So something you can do immediately to basically create the exact plan that we were talking about for our roofing clients. Set up a basic weather dashboard and monitor the weather in your area as it's coming in. Add creative into your AdWords campaign that would capture in the text ads or the image ads the name of the storm, or even real-time weather-related conditions. Pause all your other ads when you're running this. Increase bids on the keywords that are impacted by the weather. Again, as an example, in that case, it was roofing repairs and storm damage and keywords like that. This is an interesting thing. We never really recommend bidding for top position. We don't think it's a good strategy. Everything that we do is focused just on ROI, and it doesn't really matter where your position is. But what's interesting that happens here is that with a top position, in this case, you're servicing somebody that has an acute problem. There's an immediate need, and they're not doing any kind of window shopping. So in this case, that top, they click that first ad, and they're already making the inquiry. They're not spending the time to look at 5 different contractors and get estimates and quotes. They just they have an immediate need and they need help immediately. Last thing, increase your budget and monitor to look at your daily impression share and see if your ad stops serving at a certain time of the day. If your ad stops serving at 3 p.m. and you want to make sure you're capturing all these leads, change the budget again and increase it until you're basically maximizing your impression share for the day.
All right. Now we go to tactic number 3. This is really, really interesting stuff because of how prevalent mobile is becoming, and because of that, how measuring phone calls and conversion with phone calls is becoming such an important focus for what we do in pay-per-click marketing. So why don't you talk more about that, Brian?
Sure. So, one of the trends driving that is that phone calls are really making a comeback, and a major influence on this is the mobile explosion. And what's happening is that more and more ads, or even organic listings that used to result in a headline click to a website are now becoming a click-to-call action. And that trend's moving to desktop and tablet users as well, because advertisers are really trying to drive those phone calls. And Google, interesting little stat at the top, Google says 61% of mobile searches result in a phone call. So this is what we're seeing in terms of a typical mix of online conversion, somebody filling out a contact form, or downloading something and giving you the contact information, versus an offline phone conversion. And what's really happened is it's completely flipped upside down. A couple of years ago, we were seeing 70-80% people were filling out online forms, and exactly the opposite, 20% were picking up the phone. We're seeing exactly the opposite now, which is why it's becoming so important and key to make sure that you're including and capturing those phone leads when you're evaluating your return on your advertising.
Yeah, that's an unbelievable stat that really gets you focused.
Yeah, and as far as the range, we're seeing anywhere with clients between 40. A couple of clients are seeing 90% of the leads are coming in over the phone. So it's getting, it's still changing, and we're seeing a much higher and higher percentage. So there's a lot of services out there that you can call right now. We partner with Mongoose Metrics. We partner with Marchex. You can call any of these services and really have some pretty sophisticated call tracking that's very affordable, easy to implement. The capabilities are great, and you can immediately know just from as soon as you get that phone call how they found you and who's calling. It even can get as granular as creating a campaign that lets you assigns a number for every session, so that you actually can track back your phone calls to a specific keyword. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. This is another quick case study. This is a window replacement company that we work with. And they were analyzing their campaign results. They saw that cost per acquisition was increasing over time. It was based only on online form submissions, and they had several. They had one contact us, one free estimate, one download, but leads were declining. They were showing a diminishing return. They implemented some very basic phone tracking by just adding a unique number to the key landing page for pay-per-click. Even though they were going to other pages, they were just trying to capture the calls from that page itself. And just based on that alone, we found that phone calls were generating 67% of their leads. Looking at their pay-per-click campaign again with these expanded capabilities of tracking, there was a 215% increase in leads per month and a 68% decrease in the cost per acquisition.
Yeah, this is a make money now strategy. So
Exactly.
to kind of implement it, Brian, what's a kind of like this is a great outline to get going now if they wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. So there's really 3 separate stages here, and each one of them gets a little more granular and detailed in terms of the data you're collecting. The first stage that we just talked about in that case study is this one's real simple. Get a unique number and put it on your any dedicated pay-per-click landing pages that you have, and you'll immediately start capturing those phone calls as pay-per-click related. The next stage is is a dynamic number replacement. And what happens is you add some code into the link that no matter where they go during that visit, they see that pay-per-click tracking number. And the other really cool thing about this is that even if they come back several weeks later to the site on a completely different page, it could be off of a Facebook click or anything, they're going to see that pay-per-click number, and if they call, you're going to know the call came from pay-per-click. The third and final stage, very quickly, what I was just talking about, assigns a unique number to every single visit, every user session, and then you're able to track it back to an ad, a keyword, an ad group, whatever granular level of tracking you're looking for.
Yeah, and the idea is to implement click to call on a mobile ready site too, and there's some ways to do campaigning for that. That's about call tracking, but to set up the idea of make sure you're enabled for click to call everywhere everywhere you promote your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tactic number 4, phone-based keyword research. Keyword research is changing a lot for a lot of different reasons. Kind of the big drivers around personalization of search based on device, based on browser, based on search history, all kinds of things. So why don't we talk a little bit about this, Brian?
Okay. So for anybody out there who's done some keyword research, you know it can be a very difficult task, and a key point is that when you're using the Google AdWords tool or some of the more popular tools, maybe SEMrush, Spy a Few, it's the same data sources that all your competitors are using. So everybody's basically grabbing the same keywords. One of the things that we kind of stumbled upon was as we were listening to some of our inbound calls for clients, and really getting more of a feel for what's happening on the calls as far as service calls versus sales calls versus other calls, we were discovering that we were hearing some very unique words that customers were using over the phone that didn't come up in our keyword research using those tools online like Google. And now we've actually included this in our marketing playbook, and we use our phone calls for keyword research. It's great because it's a tool. There's so much valuable data that you'll hear and information you'll hear by listening to the calls, and it's a tool that only you have, and it's private. Nobody else has it.
Good. Yeah, and those keywords could be used for pay-per-click, for SEO. Also, that listening is great for social media, where you could find out what topics people want to know more about. Especially around, we talked about weather events earlier. When weather events happening, go listen on the major media blogs what people are talking about related to that weather, and try to do content that addresses those questions, and then weigh in on those platforms. So tactic number 5 is targeting local customers everywhere. Why don't you talk a little bit more about what you're thinking here, because there's some stats that I think people don't really realize, Brian, that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, sure. Actually, so one of the interesting stats that we talked about earlier is, the basic fact here is that your prospects, your customers that are in your service area, and very often we see somebody is targeting about a 30 or 40-mile radius around their location. But very often, the prospects that you have that live there are searching for your services while they're out of the area, whether they're traveling at work or on vacation. And earlier we were talking about some research that was done that said about 70 to 80% of the time people spend on the internet surfing and shopping as well happens while they're at work, and most people work more than 30 miles away from their house. So you want to capture these people when they're searching for your company where they live. These are your potential customers, but they're searching when they're outside of your market area. So Google has some ways of capturing this, but it's not foolproof. So a solution very quickly can be implemented is to create a national targeted campaign, in your AdWords account, and use exact match keywords with geo modifiers. So for example, you have a prospect, he's on a summer vacation, and he knows when he gets home he's got to have his roof replaced this fall, and he's starting to look for some quotes. So he searches for a roofing company in Western Virginia while he's down on the beach in Florida, and because you have an exact match keyword set up to find that guy, no matter where he is in the country, your ad is being served.
Yeah. What's great about this strategy to me is that, we all want to try to find places where there's less competition for things we want to do because it brings down our average cost per lead, and we're uncontested in those places. You get uncontested leads. This is one of those kind of neat little strategies. It's not about big volume, although it could be because of the stats that Brian just talked about. But what it could do is really find uncontested ways of getting leads where your competition might be so focused about advertising in their local market, they're just letting everything outside of it go. So it's a neat little strategy. Okay, tactic number 6 is bid modifiers. This is getting to some of the basic stuff you ought to do, but it's enabled by something called enhanced campaigns. And Google did a lot to launch enhanced campaigns last summer and enabled a lot of neat things. That this is one of them. We'll go through a couple of strategies here that Brian's going to outline that now is enabled by enhanced campaigns that can make your campaigns a lot stronger.
Okay, so yeah, Google launched enhanced campaigns last year, about 6 months ago, and really the most useful feature that they added. I'm going to talk for a second about one of the headaches that they created with enhanced campaigns for a lot of people. But the most useful feature is this bid modifier, where you can make bid adjustments based on where the search came from, the day. Weekends versus weekdays is the most common. The time of day, you can actually break it into day parts, and very often it's doing a lower bid in the late night day part after 12 a.m. And the last one is by device type, mobile versus desktop. This is a quick screenshot of what it looks like in AdWords. And you can see in this case that we were seeing some stronger conversions in certain areas. In this case, one area, which was District 11 in Virginia, and slightly less conversions, a lower conversion rate in 2 other places. And so very simply, we put in some bid adjustments. Before this was released, you would actually have to create a completely separate campaign in AdWords for each of these areas. You'd actually duplicate your campaign, run it over for these areas in order to adjust the bid for different cities or zip codes or wherever it is you wanted. This makes it so you don't have to launch several dozen campaigns with different bids. You can do it all in one place in one campaign.
That's great.
And exactly the same thing for the day and time modifiers. In this example, prime time was considered for this example 9 a.m. to midnight, and then the late night day part after midnight went back to a basic bid. But for those prime hours, there's a 20% increase on the bid, and then you can see on Saturday, and they had to shut down on Sunday, but on Saturday there was a negative 10%. Because there was some savings opportunities with less competitors bidding against them on the weekend.
Okay, let's get to tactic 6. Sorry about the echo, guys. I think I just have a little bit of an issue. I'm trying to keep my voice down. Maybe that helps. Device segmentation. Now with mobile being such an important thing, Google changed up some capabilities here, but there's some sneaky ways around it so you could be device specific in the way you do campaigns. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that, Brian?
So this is the headache that I referred to earlier, which is that when Google launched enhanced campaigns, they effectively killed everybody's ability to run a separate desktop campaign versus a mobile campaign. And most of us are seeing some pretty significant differences in the way mobile performs versus desktop. And so those campaigns were set up very differently with very different bids. However, using the bid modifiers that we just talked about, there's a workaround where you can effectively still create separate campaigns. And the next slide gives you that quick strategy that you can do right now. The first step is to create a campaign for desktop and set the mobile bid adjustment to negative 100%. This basically just opts you out of your ad showing on smartphones at all. You copy that campaign and you set the bids much lower, and this is so that you're basically effectively opting out of desktop, and then set the bid adjustment for mobile. Depending on your conversions and what you're seeing in conversions, you're going to increase it from anywhere from 50% to up to a maximum right now of 300%. The last step is to set mobile preference on the ads that you're launching, on your text or image ads, and this effectively creates a completely separate mobile campaign. The desktop will be purely desktop only. What we're seeing is with the mobile, it's almost 100%. There can be a little bit of desktop clicks that occasionally happen, even with the set that bid, but this effectively separates your device targeting.
Great strategy. Strategy 8 is another really powerful strategy. The idea is, provide opportunities for more conversion with, kind of these softer type of conversions. And, George Faber, good friend of the company's and someone that we work with, loves this, kind of going after these softer type of leads. He calls them not the foam at the mouth buyers. Because again, it's a place where it's less contested. A lot of businesses focus on the people who need, roof repair right now, or need window replacement right now, or need a mortgage right now. But there are an awful lot of people that are going to need it in the next 6 months. And if you could get them in your funnel before and use some other tactics, you might be able to move up their purchase decision with the right kind of scripts and sales scripts and in-home type of sales approaches. So this is another really good strategy to become more efficient and get more leads. Brian, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, sure. An interesting thing is that this is a very common tactic that you see with business-to-business companies. They're very often using these soft leads and have a lot of call to actions on their site just to get an email address. White paper downloads are used a lot. PDF downloads are used a lot. Don't see this as much with business to consumer sites, which is most of our clients. And using the example again of a lot of our customers who are contractors. Throughout the site, there's a strong call to action to get an estimate, get a price, get a quote now. But very often we're not seeing that grabbing that opportunity to get somebody earlier in the buying process by a softer request for an email subscription or entering a contest or one of those. So these are just a few quick examples and a quick launch. Immediately that you can do is to have some of these soft call to action touts. You might want to look in analytics and see some of your high traffic producing pages so that you're not spending time doing this on pages that are not going to drive many soft conversions for you. Another way to implement is just to go into your global template. If there's a way to do that, there's a widget that's on every page that you can add these. That's another great way to get it across the entire site. But these are just a few examples. You can run some very basic contests where you don't even have to register the sweepstakes if the pricing is low. This one I grabbed, a Scared of Santa contest where users will share their photo and went up to $1,000. It's a great way to also to engage your audience. That has a great crossover into social media as well, that type of contest, while it's also driving, your internal house list and more soft conversions. And then these other two is, again, quick sign up for newsletters where all they have to give you is their email address, excuse me, And the last is an example of a download of a white paper or a PDF download.
Okay, tactic 9, AdWords share library. Um, talk a little bit about the share library and how does that help people, Brian?
This one, this is a very quick way to save time, save money, and potentially drive some better results by sharing assets. It's really kind of hidden in the AdWords interface. If you look on the lower, all the way down in the lower left-hand corner of your screen when you're in AdWords, if you're not using the editing tool, you'll see this shared library. And what it allows you to do is take negative keyword lists, text ads, audiences that you set up to target with remarketing, for example, and share it across all your campaigns so that you don't actually have to create these things in each of your different campaigns. And on the next slide, just giving one strong example of a way to capture opportunity is, in this case, so we had a home remodeling company, and they had separate budgets for bathrooms versus kitchens versus people just looking for design build companies. And what was happening was, on some days some were hitting budgets, and other days some of those campaigns weren't hitting budgets. So what we did instead was create a shared budget across all of them. And what it does is it captures the daily and weekly shifts that can just happen very naturally. And it can happen for any reason. A lot of it's external events, whether that we talked about before, but also maybe there was something in the news that today that talked about remodeling your bathroom, and now all of a sudden there's a spike in bathroom remodeling, which you wouldn't capture if you weren't sharing the budget across all your campaigns. So this does saves time, but it also can capture more traffic and leads that you wouldn't if you had separate budgets for all your different campaigns.
All right, tactic 10, remarketing. This is the to me the most no-brainer. If you're not doing it, you ought to be doing it. Tactic. So Brian, why don't you tell us why?
Sure. So just to piggyback on that for a second, remarketing. For a while, I think it was this remarketing targeting was mostly an afterthought for a lot of clients, and now we are very often recommending it as the first place to go. It's the first thing that you should be thinking about. This is one of the reasons is that it used to be a complex thing to set it up. You had to add all these individual tags. You had to get your developers to add different tags to different places. You had to have a designer create display and rich media ads. This is not the case anymore. Today you can actually, after this call, you can go and have a remarketing campaign running in 10 minutes. And the next slide, I'll give you some quick step. Actually, first, why remarketing? Why do we say that? Time and time again, case studies are showing how effective it is. Conversion rate improvement lifts are up to 300 to 400%. This is important. The average cost per click rates are much lower on the display network. But what's interesting is that you are...
Brian, let me just stop you 1 second. I want to make sure, because some questions are coming in about, just to make sure everybody understands what remarketing is. It's the idea of when people come to your website, and if they don't fill out a form or call you, but they're in the market, they don't just wander into a website for the services that you're looking for. You could reach them in their trail of other places they go with advertising. I don't know, Brian, if that does that accurately kind of portray what it is?
Very accurate, yes. And actually, that dovetails nicely with the third point here, which is that those previous visitors to your site, targeting them and proactively reaching out to them again with an ad, that's your most interested and engaged audience that you can target. And this is why we are recommending, remarketing at this point really is the first step, and even before paid search in many cases, because that's your most engaged audience most likely to convert users, and you could target them on the Google Display Network. Quick stat: Google is able to capture 80% of people in the U.S. on their display network.
Yeah, so you could reach 80%, in effect, 80% of the people who come to your website and look.
Exactly.
You're able to reach 80% of them for some time in a remarketing campaign.
Okay. So, and again, this is very simple to set up. Seriously, you can have this running in just a few minutes. There's a very simple update to your Google Analytics tag. Now they have remarketing just baked into your analytics tag. It's a you basically you literally change just a few words in your tag, and all of a sudden you can build and run remarketing audiences. And then you set up the audiences and AdWords for anything that you can measure in analytics. So, the first place to go usually is just all your site visitors and targeting them anyplace else. But then you could also look at, for example, you can see people who visited your roofing pages versus your siding pages versus your window replacement. And that way, when you serve a remarketing ad to them, it focuses just on that product. So that somebody who is on one of your roofing pages only sees an ad for roofing. Somebody who is on pages about siding will only see a follow-up ad for siding. At this point, remarketing fully supports text ads. It used to be that you couldn't get any exposure or any reach with text. Now the same ads that you create for search marketing, you can use in remarketing, and you'll right off the bat you'll start to see the traffic. The last thing is that you do want to set up a frequency cap to limit the impressions per visitor. We recommend that basically you're not showing more than 20 to 30 impressions a month. I think we've all had the experience where you go to a website and then you feel like they're just like following you around everywhere you go. You just see the ad from that website every place you go for the next week or so. I think that's okay as long as it's not, there isn't any overkill. So we recommend putting a frequency cap.
Okay. So we're gonna do a last poll here. Hopefully, you guys, that's our 10, key things. Some of you may want to know more about how your campaigns stack up, or if you don't have a campaign going yet, which a lot of you don't, in pay-per-click or remarketing, as we just talked about, you want to get started and want some help with that. We could sort of do an evaluation of where you are, where your competition is, and give you some suggestions of what you could do, and if you want, how we could help you. So we'll put the poll up now. And if you want to have someone from Surefire follow up with you to do a PPC checkup, check up on your current campaigns and how you might be able to improve them, or based on your business and your market and your competition, what you might want to do to get more leads, we'll be delighted to do that. So if you could just give us the yes or no. Either answer is good, but we prefer some kind of an answer just so we could get the percentages of everybody up here, and then look forward to seeing you guys. If you want to know more about Surefire Social, go to surefiresocial.com. Love for you to like us on Facebook, and it's at Facebook it's Surefire Social is the Facebook page, and on Twitter, Surefire Social at Surefire Socials our handle, or call us at the number below. This presentation will be available on SlideShare. We're also going to send out a copy of it to everybody who attended or registered, and the video will be available on YouTube as well at some point in the next week or so. So on behalf of Brian and I and the Surefire team, thank you for joining. If you said yes, you want us to follow up, we're going to follow up. We got almost 50% of the people wanted a follow up. That's awesome. Look forward to talking to you. And
hey, Chris, we actually got some awesome questions.
Oh, questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a few more minutes, so we can answer as many as we can.
Yeah.
The first one is, are all PPC campaigns geo-specific?
Hey, Brian, do you want to take that one? Are all PPC campaigns geo-specific?
You could set it up however you'd like. You can literally set it up to target one zip code, or or like a 1 or 2 mile radius, all the way to having a worldwide campaign. You in the campaign settings, you can decide exactly how you want to geo target.
Okay.
Okay, so the next question is, I'm concerned that my competitors will click my ads and waste my budget. Does Google do anything to fix that?
Yes, Google absolutely monitors. One of the main things that they do there at the most basic level is if they see clicks coming from the same IP address, they immediately credit your account for any of those excess clicks. Of course, they're also looking for actually any type of click fraud. Um, Google has, an amazing amount of technology to combat against any kind of click fraud, including competitors clicking your ads. If you think about it, if they didn't have that, it could really bring down the entire AdWords kind of empire, because people would then be concerned about using pay-per-click advertising. So they're on top of that, and any clicks that they think are even questionable, they'll credit back to you, and you don't pay for them.
Yeah, that is a really good point. Well said, Brian. They do spend a ton of money on this whole idea of click fraud, and from the very beginning, that's something. It was a great question. Great question.
Okay, the next one. So after you start a campaign, how long does it usually take to start getting leads?
In most cases, the campaigns that we've launched, you hit the ground running. You'll see traffic and leads pretty much from day one.
Yeah, I mean that's the. I mean, what's great about pay per click, we like to say, is that we could put you on the first page of a keyword on day one. I mean, it is a matter of bidding and making some adjustments, and you know, being in the first position, as Brian mentioned earlier, may not be the best thing in the world, but you might want to, there might be a different ROI strategy on it. But that's what's wonderful about pay per click.
Okay. So are remarketing ads just display network ads?
Yes. Well, for the most part. For the most part, your remarketing ads are just ads that are running on the display network, and so basically, it's your as somebody's reading articles or blog posts across the web, they're going to see a display ad, a skyscraper ad, where the top banner, top of the page banner, um, on that website. Um, Another place that we're seeing some good success is any clients that have some videos available, some good videos. It can be a sizzle reel about their product, or it can actually be like a 30-second spot or pre-roll ad that they developed. You can run those as a remarketing campaign on YouTube, so that somebody who's watching videos on YouTube will see your remarketing ad as a video pre-roll. And we're seeing some pretty good success with that as well. So those are the two places really that you run remarketing.
Okay, great. All right, we have one more. Is there a cost difference between mobile ads versus desktop ads?
Yes, for the most part, mobile traffic can still be bought at a pretty good discount, um, against desktop, and we're seeing that everywhere. Not just in paid search, but in all the other channels that we're using, including Facebook advertising, paid syndication, even just pure display advertising. Buying ad space on mobile is still at this point a lot less expensive than it is on desktop.
Yeah, less expensive doesn't always mean better ROI, but better out of pocket. But one area, Facebook advertising is a lot less expensive in general, whatever mobile or desktop, and is interesting on on the ROI side. We've been doing a lot of work on that as well. So that's it. That's another good one. So I think that does it on the questions. Man, that's great. Really good questions by the group today. Awesome group too, as well. It looks like most of you hung in through that the question and answer too. You guys benefited a lot from that. So with that, I think we're going to sign off and thank you for joining. And Brian, thank you for participating. You did a great job. Sorry about the audio problems, guys. And we'll see you next month at our next presentation. Look for the invites in a couple of weeks.